Despite not playing the best hockey we've seen all year long from the Winnipeg Jets, their recent stretch of games have been, still nonetheless impressive just for the fact that they're able to win hockey games. You look at this Jets win streak, 4 games in a row they'd won, all against Central Division teams, and then they roll in tonight to play Dallas. In Dallas, a real big test game for them. That game against Vancouver a couple weeks ago was a huge test game, and they still in that game, even though they won, they didn't play amazing. They still were a good team, but they weren't perfect. And then they play Dallas tonight, and they get steamrolled with a horrible first period where they lose 4-1. And, this isn't panic time. That's not what this video is about. But what this definitely shows me with this loss to Dallas is that the Jets need to add. And I think 110% that this team has not been playing their best hockey and that they know it. Brendan Dillon said it had some accountability with that today. And I feel like that, reverberates through the entire lineup right now with how they feel about their play as of late. But nonetheless, this team needs help, and the Dallas Stars just acquired Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev was just acquired for, a second-round pick and a conditional third-round pick, as well as a prospect. And this game where Dallas dominated the Jets was without Tanev, and all Tanev's going to do is dramatically improve the defense of the Dallas Stars. And, I think that the Jets need to add 110% going at this deadline still. It's been quiet. We haven't heard that many rumors and that much, active, calling and showing interest as you would maybe potentially like to see. But, with the Jets still being there, second in the Central, and every team there pretty much looking very deep, very threatening, and kind of getting pretty damn good as of late and finding their game, they're all looking to add too. Colorado's looking to add, and with all these teams looking to add in the West, and with the fact that you're seeing that Lyubushkin's been just traded already to the Leafs for a third-round pick. And you saw that Tanev got traded for a second and a conditional third. And Lyubushkin is nowhere near anywhere that Tanev is. I think that really shows that the market has been set right now. And Jets fans we're seeing the polls. Nick did a great job running the numbers. Jets fans want a defenseman, and it looks like we need some help potentially too. And like I'm saying, all these teams are adding. So I totally agree that the Jets need to go out there and do something, and I know that they've been very active. You look at the last year, trading for Nino Niederreiter, going into last year's deadline for just a second-round pick. You can't forget about the actual deadline acquisition acquirer himself in Vlad Namestnikov for a fourth-round pick, and these guys have been re-signed. They're having good years on the team, and they're important members of the depth of this team and the success that they're finding. You can't also forget about the fact that they traded Pierre-Luc Dubois for that massive haul. The Jets have been active in the trade market, and that's why I'm not panicking, because I believe that they will continue to be active. Not only was this a massive trade, bringing in 3 huge roster additions, but they recently just traded a first-round pick to bring in Sean Monahan, who's also been fitting in very, very well. And this team, despite all those 4 big trades that they've done in the last year, they still have pretty good draft capital available. Chevy has found himself in a good spot. That Montreal second-round pick is going to pretty much be a very late first-round pick. It's probably going to be between 38th and 35th overall, so that's a pretty damn good high selection in the draft, and I trust Cheveldayoff 110% based on these moves. But they can't be done. They can't sit back going into this deadline, acquire a depth defenseman for a 6th, 7th round pick. We can't see another Jordy Ben type situation, or we can't see the night, I can't even remember that guy we bought, the Sandman. That's all I can remember his fucking nickname was, even though he put up no goals. Sadford, I think his name was, from Ottawa a couple years ago when we bought. We can't see a depth move like that. That's just, to shut up some of the fans, to be like, hey, we were active on deadline day. We made a splash. The Jets need to go into this deadline. They need to be active right now, because if they want to have a chance at really winning and competing with all these other teams in the West, they're going to have to add, because the Canucks are still looking to add top-tier talent. All these teams are, and with this, all these going into the deadline, the fact that, Vilardi has been injured in this Dallas game from yesterday and probably won't play on Saturday, that's pretty concerning for the Jets' top 6 right now. So I think they need to go out there and get somebody immediately. And the first guy that pops to mind, not saying he's the best guy, but just because he's the only one I've seen the Jets been tied to recently as of late, is Kyle Okposo. Now, I've already talked about him in a short, but the Jets have been linked along with the Rangers and the New York Islanders to Okposo, and I'm not going to lie, I would not be against this one bit. I think Kyle Okposo, looking for a Stanley Cup kind of, push in the twilight years of his career, 20 points in 57 games, his defensive metrics aren't even that bad. Adding him as a fourth liner, some depth to this team, a guy that can bounce up to that third line potentially as well. I think, I'm not saying it's a permanent amazing fix, but you look at his ice time, you look at what he's able to do as a veteran, as a captain, as a leader out there, he could be the perfect type of guy to bring in that might not cost that much to help be that, extra depth piece to the forward core, to help push also potentially Mason Appleton out of that lineup, because Mason Appleton is god-awful, and he's being carried by Lowry and by Niederreiter, and that fourth line could use some jolt as well, because Perfetti hasn't been playing that well as of late. So, focusing on the defense, moving away from Okposo, because I think that would be a great add. You got to look at getting rid of, and I'm not even getting rid of, because I know that's not happening, but upgrading Neil Pionk. You look how bad Neil Pionk was in that game against the Stars. He was the worst player on the ice lately for the Jets, and I know that it's probably not going to happen. But I think going for Noah Hanifin would also be the icing on the cake for this situation. He is the most top-tier elite defenseman left on the deadline, pretty much. Go on the trade bait list going into it. The most complete top pairing guy out there that's available, really. And I know that Chevy won't trade for him because he's a pure rental, no chance of signing here, and he's going to cost probably, that high second, maybe even conditional first. But I can still dream. But at the end of the day, I think another guy that the Jets could look at as a depth guy that they could afford with that second-round pick could be Nashville's Alexander Carrier. Now, he could be a very good depth, third pairing kind of guy to bounce Pionk out a little bit at times, kind of depth move for this defensive core. He might not cost that much either. He's got 18 points in 56 games. We've already dealt with the Predators last year at the deadline, so we know that Chevy has a relationship there and doesn't mind trading with them, because we got Niederreiter for a second-round pick last year. And, if the Jets don't want to go out there and spend a lot, because at the end of the day, I think they should, but they probably won't, because they never have really been that team to go out there and trade everything to bring in deadline acquisitions. But, Alexander Carrier could be a great depth add, for the right price. Kyle Okposo could be a solid add to this team. A veteran leader that's having a decent year, that's still playing, 13 minutes of ice time, a game, and being pretty good on a bad team. That could be a good move. It's not like, oh, this is going to make the Jets an immediately a better team, but it's adding and bulking up, and that's what they need to do. The Jets just can't trade for a seventh defenseman this year. They need to go out there and get a guy that could be maybe a top four, arguably, a guy like Carrier who could push in and help, just make things deeper and more solid, and maybe add a little bit more fight to ice time for Pionk, have that type of play, that kind of just depth that they need. And I keep saying that because depth is exactly what this team needs. They need to improve on the depth that they already have, and they need to add in their weaknesses, and their defense is weak. And now that with Velarde being out potentially, and their forwards playing the way that they have been as of late, especially Appleton, and then that Perfetti has been very inconsistent, they need to look into adding stuff to this team still. Chevy needs to look at the future and go into this fully cocked and ready to go. I believe that they will be, but at the same time, the Jets have been sleepers at the deadline in the past, and they've missed out on some big ads that I think could have helped put them over the top, and this year that cannot happen. The Jets need to go out there and make those impact trades that the competition will be making as well. I really believe that we're going to see, teams add still a lot. I think the Canucks could even add more talent going into this deadline, and if that's the case, the Jets are going to need to do something about it as well. So I think that even though this team had that hot 4-game stretch, you haven't been playing the best hockey, you need to still add something to it. So I say go out there and add and make this the all-in year, because they've been playing amazing, and just because they're it's a long season, they're finding the weaknesses in the game, we're seeing it. Now you got to improve on that. You can't sleep on this one. So make sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as always, if you agree with me and what type of players you think the Jets should add approaching that deadline. I can't wait for the deadline this year, and just this week leading up to it, the floodgates are opening, and it's going to be very exciting. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and check out all the other affiliate links down in the description below. If you're brand new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, turn notifications on. It's a great way to stay up to date with all things Winnipeg Jets hockey. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Peace and positivity as always. Go Jets go, and I will see you guys in the next one. It'll all be over.